So obviously the Stoics wouldn't have any time for the silliness of Halloween, for ghost stories, for superstitions, right? Well, actually one of the oldest ghost stories we have, it dates to somewhere around 50 BC, and it involves an early Stoic named Athenodorus. Athenodorus would become famous for eventually being the advisor to the Emperor Augustus. So Athenodorus is renting this large mansion outside Athens. He was warned before he rents it, don't rent it, it's filled with ghosts, it's haunted. And of course, as a Stoic, he doesn't listen. And so the first night he's in the house, as he's sitting down to do his evening journaling or his philosophical writing, he's visited by this terrifying apparition. It's a ghost dragging iron chains, moaning, making these terrible noises. What does Athenodorus do? Does he run from the room screaming like I probably would have done? Does he fall to his knees begging for mercy? No, he actually just motions to the ghost. He says, hang on a minute, wait. And he finishes what he's writing. He snuffs out his lamp, and then he follows the ghost out through the house, out through the front door, outside, onto the lawn, and then the ghost stops. And Athenodorus realizes that the ghost is trying to communicate something, and then suddenly the ghost disappears. So Athenodorus marks the spot, and the next day he returns to the scene with a crew of workmen, and they dig, and they find in the ground a pile of bones. Athenodorus gets what's happening, and so he orders the bones to be given a public funeral, and of course, the ghost is never heard from again. So to me, the moral of the story, one, aside from the fact that the Stoics do have a sense of humor, the lesson there is that a Stoic is calm under any and all circumstances. Doesn't matter if you're visited by a ghost or just given some bad news. You have to be calm, you have to be controlled. You can't let your mind run wild, you can't let your imagination get the best of you. You have to stare it in the face, you respond with discipline and courage and reason, and you can think your way through any problem, and that's what he was doing. And to me, the reason Athenodorus was telling this story was that Augustus, then known as Octavian, was supposedly sort of a frightful, superstitious guy, and I think he was telling this story as a clever, interesting way to reassure his young student, to prepare him for the role of being emperor, and he was using, as we use today, a ghost story as a way of teaching an interesting lesson. I love that story. It's one of the great ghost stories of all time, and I thought it was a fitting story to share with you today on Halloween.